warm welcome to latest edition of Crossfire. And in this edition, we would like to talk about the controversial Darusman report. And joining us in the studios is Sri Lanka's ambassador to France and UNESCO, Dr. Dayan Jayatilaka. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Hello.
Firstly, I would like to ask you, what is your point of view on this report?
Well, it's a very dangerous report. Apart from the fact that it is improper, because this was supposed to be the report of an advisory group of experts on standards and norms, practices concerning accountability. But that's not what came out. What came out is a 196-page report, which is a full-on attack on Sri Lanka, its armed forces, its state, government, and its citizenry. I mean, it attempts to delegitimize an eminently just war that Sri Lanka waged to reunify its territory and defeat terrorism. This report is the thin end of the wedge. I mean, it is only the spearhead of a vast, ramified Cold War that has now been launched against Sri Lanka. We must understand the report not in isolation, but as an attempt to build international public opinion, to leverage governments and administrations in other parts of the world to move against Sri Lanka. The final aim and objective is to reverse the results of the war, to win a victory that could not be won by force of arms, to reverse the Sri Lankan victory and to reverse the defeat of the Liberation Tigers. This is an exceedingly pernicious report which must be critiqued and exposed globally.
And what may have been the reason for the appointed panel to publish this report in such a way?
Well, frankly, I do not want to guess at the motivations of individual panelists. That's an exercise in psychologizing which I cannot do. And I certainly don't want to go around saying that they're, imputing some dishonest motives. That's not important. What is important is the content of the report. And the content of the report has to be condemned and criticized because it is for the most part a tissue of lies. Now, why? Well, during the war, we defeated the Tiger Army on the soil of Sri Lanka. But the Tigers are not only an army. The Tigers are a global movement, a global network. We saw this during the demonstrations in 2009. Now, obviously we couldn't defeat the Tiger movement globally because they are not located in Sri Lanka. But that movement continues. They are very, very rich. They've taxed their own people, they've engaged in fundraising, in criminal activity, and they're enormously wealthy. Now this means that they have tremendous ability to lobby, to network, which is what they've been doing. They've created an atmosphere in which Sri Lanka has been made, or sought to be made, a kind of a hate symbol. This is a psychological war that is being waged. So after 30 years of a hot war, which we won, we've not even been given 2 years to convalesce, to rebuild, for the wounds to heal. A cold war is being waged against Sri Lanka.
And Dr. Jayatilaka, what are the instances in the past that this sort of a report or this sort of a movement came against an independent country?
Well, there are several examples. They didn't always use this sort of report, but they used so-called reports or various charges. The best known, of course, is the case of WMD, so-called weapons of mass destruction, that Iraq was supposed to have possessed. And what a fuss was made about it, globally. Even the UN General Assembly was addressed. The Security Council was addressed. Everybody was told that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons, and worse. Now the whole world knows that that was a lie. they sent inspection teams into Iraq, where Iraq said, no, we don't have weapons of mass destruction. They said, no, 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 we have to check it out, we have to verify that. And there were 700 inspections. And when the head of the inspections team tried to tell the United Nations, look, I haven't found any weapons of mass destruction, and it looks like there are no weapons of mass destruction, certain powers brushed aside Dr. Hans Blix and launched the war against Iraq. So, yes, there have been many instances, including Kosovo, the breakup of former Yugoslavia. They said that there were massacres of Albanians in Kosovo by the Serb forces. Now that proved to be questionable, to say the least. And what happened? Kosovo was broken away from Serbia, and now it is an independent country. We have seen southern Sudan. We have seen a whole trend where bogus charges are made. The international media is used to whip up a lynch mob mentality. A country is targeted, and then it is dismembered. And finally, a puppet administration is inserted into what is left of what was a single country. This is the same playbook that is being used on Sri Lanka, and we must not let it happen.
Well, Dr. Jayatilaka, the international community has, when it generalize, if we generalize the UN, or is this some sort of attack that comes as a result of a certain party, or you call it a normal?
Well, certainly the pro-Tiger element in the Tamil diaspora has been one of the factors in this equation. But that's not the only factor. If you look at other parts of the world, what's happening now, external military intervention in what is essentially a civic or civil conflict, civil war, if you will, in some parts of the world, you will see that there are certain forces which believe that the nation state is not important, that national sovereignty should be rolled back, that the powerful should be able to intervene whenever they think it is right to do so, whether it's in their interests or in their so-called values. So there is a global trend, a certain initiative on the part of certain elements. There is also an attempt to halt the rise of Asian powers. So all of these are factors that go into this mix. And it is a combination of these factors that has led to the Cold War, which has targeted Sri Lanka.
And do you think that responding to this report is necessary? And
absolutely.
And how should Sri Lanka respond to this as one nation?
Well, we must respond truthfully, intelligently, and with determination. I say truthfully because we must not engage in propaganda that has no credibility. We have the truth on our side, so we have to tell the truth about the way in which the war was fought, the combat environment, the nature of the LTT, the choices we had, our experience with allowing the LTT to get away before through negotiations and restart the war. We must tell the truth in as much detail as we can. We must break the argumentation against us. Our Minister of External Affairs, Professor G.L. Peiris, initiated this process this morning, that's Thursday morning, when he addressed the diplomatic community based in Colombo on the report, and he went through the report, picked out several pages and references, and he did a very good job of dismantling it argumentatively. Now, that's only the beginning. This has to be done. I don't believe in this argument that, well, if you respond to the panel report, it means you accept the legitimacy of the panel and therefore we should not respond. That's pure nonsense, because if somebody accuses you unfairly, falsely, of murder, I'm sure you won't say, no, I'm not going to defend myself. I'm sure you'll get the best possible lawyer you can in order to defend yourself against a false charge. Defending yourself against a false charge doesn't mean that you accept that the charge is true or legitimate. It is precisely because it is false that you are defending yourself against it. So we must do that truthfully, intelligently, expeditiously, not wait for ages and ages to do it. Because with every day we lose, world opinion is built up manipulatively against us. In the last 2 days, several leading newspapers have written editorials based on this so-called report. So we have to move fast in rebutting this. We also have to build the broadest possible international consensus by pointing out the dangers of this to other countries and to the dynamics of the world order, to the working of the world order. If Sri Lanka is allowed to be victimized in this manner, who will be next? So we have to explain this to the world at large. We also have to make sure that our friends are on board, because we do have friends, but we mustn't take friends for granted. We must also help our friends to help us. We must give our friends whatever they need in order to get them fully onto our side. We have to concentrate on our neighborhood, because it is only neighbors who can protect us from outside interference. And the second circle has to be Asia, the continent to which we belong. We have to get solid support in Asia, not take it for granted. We have to go out and get it, or get it back, and then the rest of the world. This is a battle of ideas. It's a battle of opinion. It's a battle for world opinion. We have to get the world onto our side. It's like an election on a grand scale, but the stakes are much higher than at an election. What is going on here is part of a major strategy aimed at more than regime change, at regime and state termination. This is an attempt to soften and break off the northern part of Sri Lanka, to provide an exit. As for southern Sudan, as for Kosovo, we have to understand the stakes. They are very, very high. Part of that is to terminate the regime so a puppet administration can be put in. And we must resist this intelligently, not in an extremist way, not in an ethnic chauvinist or religious chauvinist way, intelligently and realistically.
And Doctor, what is your message, or rather the advice to the general public in order to contribute their share in tackling this issue?
3 points. 1, under no circumstances whatsoever, however bad the provocation, should the public or the armed forces ever direct lethal force against Tamil civilians. Because if that happens, none of us diplomats will be able to stop it. We would have fallen into the trap, and external intervention will be triggered, and we will lose what we have. This is rule number 1. 2, don't bend your head, but don't allow your head to swell either. If I may say it in Sinhala, he said, Namandatepa, oluwa udummagandatepa. Don't bow your head, but don't allow it to swell. 3, unite. That doesn't mean unite around a single party or person or whatever, but forget all party, religious, ideological, caste, creed, all these differences. Unite to defend the only country we have. Unite to defend our national sovereignty. Unite to protect our independence. Unite to save our country from external intervention which can break up this small country. Unite as the broadest possible national bloc or front that is necessary. And to do that, everyone, government and opposition, all stakeholders have to make whatever sacrifices and demonstrate whatever flexibility needed. Maybe take certain steps back in order to achieve the broadest possible consensus to defend our country.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dayan Jayathilaka, for taking your time off from your busy schedule. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Crossfire.
Thank you.